Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to see everyone here tonight for our final session of our four-part series, Crime and Punishment, Thinking Outside the Cell. Tonight, we return our attention to building communities of justice as we examine the tough barriers and innovative interventions for those who seek to reenter society successfully after a criminal conviction. My name is John Beckford. I'm the Vice President for Academic Affairs here at Furman and the Dean. It is my pleasure to welcome you, and that I think all of you deserve special badges if any of you have attended all four of these sessions. How many of you out there have been to all four? Oh, we need to offer some graduation certificates or something to you folks. I hope that you would join me in welcoming a couple special guests tonight. In particular, I want to point out that we are honored by the president of former admired lead, well, our former Secretary of Education and Governor of South Carolina, public servant, and admired leader, Dick Riley. Dick, thank you for being here. We are also delighted to have with us the United States Attorney for this District of South Carolina, Bill Nettles, and from Baltimore, the Senior Director of Recruitment for Johns Hopkins, Michelle Sedney. So both of you, thank you very much for being here tonight. And also a special thank you on this last session of the summer series to Ali and the Riley Institute at Furman. I think this is our fourth year of hosting this series of various topics. I personally believe that of all the various summer activities that go on the Furman campus over the summer, this is one of the most important and intellectually stimulating things that we do in this entire summer session when the students have left and we think that there's no activity happening on campus. Well, quite the contrary. This series shows that there's great vitality and interest in addressing some tough topics, but ones that are of great value to our state and our communities. So it's been a pleasure to be a part of that for 4 years, and we look forward to continuing to offer you something in the summers ahead. Several of you have asked about watching a session you may have missed, or perhaps rewatched one that you have attended. So please visit the Riley Institute website to view each of these sessions that are now posted and uploaded online. Or if you'd like to purchase a DVD of the series, please call the Ali office and they can help you with that. Well, tonight's theme, Building Communities of Justice, focuses on the networks and support systems that can better address those who violate the law. Fines and incarcerations should not be the only way we respond to those who engage in illegal activity. What are the approaches that might have a lasting impact on an individual's behavior to steer them from making the wrong choice in the future? And how do we reintegrate them back into society after they've served time? Our first speaker tonight has been credited for helping South Carolina to think differently about incarceration as the only solution, as well as how do we appropriately and more effectively integrate them back into society once they have served a prison sentence. Bill Nettles has been the U.S. Attorney for the District of South Carolina since 2010. And prior to that, he was a member of the Sanders and Nettles, LLC, in Columbia. He practiced law in Camden and also worked in the Public Defender's Office in Columbia. Mr. Nettles has been admitted to practice before the United States Supreme Court, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 4th Judicial District, the U.S. District Court of the District of South Carolina, and the South Carolina Supreme Court. He's received the President's Award from the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, the President's Award from the South Carolina Criminal Defense Lawyers, the NAACP Foot Soldier in the Sand Award, and the NAACP Outstanding Legal Service Award. Well, his law degree is from Widener University School of Law, and now he's done all of that in spite of being a graduate of the Citadel. Please join me in giving a warm Furman welcome to Mr. Bill Nettles.
So first, I'd like to start by saying, how can you talk at Furman without recognizing Secretary Riley? When I think of public service, he is the example that there are people that get into politics for a whole host of reasons, and some of them are noble and some of them aren't. But Secretary Riley, to my mind, has always been the reason that you got into politics, which was to make life a better place. And I was so hoping you were going to be here, and it really means the world to me that you're here. I've admired you for a long, long time. You're right, I did go to Citadel. If I could tell you a real quick story before we get into serious stuff. So basically, I'm up at Department of Justice, and I've been nominated by the president, and I go up to Main Justice, and I'm sitting in a room, and there's like this, it looks just like what you think it's going to look like at Main Justice, Depression era art on either side. And I'm sitting at this table, and I'd tried a bunch of death penalty cases. Before I had this job, I defended a lot of death penalty cases. 2 of them gone to the United States Supreme Court. I tried probably 6 or 8 of them. And so they were just drilling me about how could you possibly, want to be the U.S. attorney after all the work you've done defending death penalty cases. And I was just talking about how, it was all about the law being applied evenly and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the table, there was a woman who I later found out was from the White House who let out a gasp that literally stopped everything else that was going on. And she looked at me and she said, "You went to the Citadel?" And I said, I did. Oddly enough, I got out in 4 years. I was a private the whole time, trust me. But yeah, I went to the Citadel. And she goes, "Would you send your children there?" And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, if they were girls." And nobody laughed. I had to go back for a second interview. I was the only U.S. attorney out of Obama's crop that had to go back for 2 interviews at the Department of Justice in order to get this job. But I got it. And the only way I could get into Furman, because I wasn't smart enough, was to get invited by y'all. So it's taken me a long time, but I finally got to come to Furman, and I appreciate being here. I really do appreciate being here. On to a more serious topic. Whenever I got this job, like I said, I'd been a criminal defense lawyer. I'd been a public defender for 3 years, a job I loved a great deal. And I'd gone out into private practice. And I was, defending people during the height of the war on drugs. And let's be clear, I represented people who, are doing extraordinary, not because of any bad lawyer I did, but, are doing extraordinarily lengthy sentences. And that impacted me. I knew them, I knew their parents, I knew their children, I knew their spouses, and I saw firsthand what these sort of extraordinarily long sentences were doing to families. Let's make no mistake about something. I'm not up here to tell you that people should not be going to prison, all right? I deal with people in my job now, and whenever I defended people, that are truly dangerous, bad people, all right? And there is a reason we have prisons, all right? So I don't want anybody to take anything that Bill Nettles left and he thinks that nobody should be going to prison. That's not true at all. I send people to prison every day. But what we need to start doing, it seems to me, is to start understanding, who really should be going to prison and who shouldn't. And that's the issue, all right? And I'd like to think that a lot of what we're doing at the U.S. Attorney's Office is we're on the front edge of that. And it's a work in progress. And I have no doubt that as we progress as a society, that whenever my boys come along, and they look back on what we've done and we think's progressive, it will, I hope, seem barbaric. I hope that we progress in the way that we view how we deal with these issues. What we've done, when I came in, the Department of Justice was starting to recognize that the war on drugs had produced a couple of things that wasn't good. At the very basic level, okay, anytime you fight a war, and people who have been in wars can tell you that you develop a warrior mentality, and it becomes us versus them. And that's not a healthy attitude for law enforcement, and it's not a healthy attitude for prosecution. The attitude should be, and I tell my folks this all the time, Okay, and perhaps it's because I'm not a lifetime prosecutor. Perhaps it's because I came to it with a very different view of a lot of people that have my job. But I don't view my job is to lock people up. That is not my job. And anybody, in my opinion, that's a prosecutor that tells you their job is to lock people up is missing the point. Okay? Our job is to protect people in South Carolina. And our job is to make South Carolina a better place. That's my job. And that's what the people that work with me in the U.S. Attorney's Office, that is our job. Now, one of the tools we have, and it's an extraordinarily expensive tool, and it is often not even an effective tool, is incarceration. It's not our job, it's a tool. And we need, I would call on you, the cool thing about my job is I don't get elected, all right? The President of the United States asked me to do this job. If I don't know what happened, but all 50 members of the Senate approved me. And so, I serve at the pleasure of the President, and that's my boss. And so I don't have to run for a job. But y'all have people that y'all elect. Okay? Y'all elect solicitors, okay? All throughout this country, okay? And what y'all should be doing is calling on the people that you elect to gauge what they're doing, not in terms of length of sentences, but in terms of impact on the community. Because I believe this. I believe that no one should be incarcerated for a day longer than is necessary to protect the community. Anything beyond that is vengeance. And that's not mine, okay? And so that's just how I feel about it. And that is the attitude that I have tried to impart on, the people that worked at the United States Attorney's Office whenever I got there, and the people that I've hired since I've been there. And I hope that that's, something that outlives me, because let's be clear about something. When it comes to incarceration, and I'm not real good with facts, okay, or statistics, but I saw y'all had a bunch of them up there before you got up there, okay? The point is this: we're incarcerating too many people, okay? We're just incarcerating too many people. And you can arrive there on one of two ways. You can arrive that we're incarcerating too many people on a moral issue, just that it is just morally not right. It's just morally not right to be putting people in prison, to essentially incarcerating an entire generation of a race of people, multiple generations of a race of people. Okay, there are some people that think that we're incarcerating too many people based, and I'm not weighing in on this. I'm just talking the way on moral issue. All right, it's just not morally right. There's another group that believe that it's just fundamentally not good business sense. All right, let's be clear about this. Every time a judge sends somebody to prison for a term of years, what that judge is essentially doing is obligating the tax-paying citizens of that community to pay for it. So if somebody gets sentenced to 30 years, and then a prosecutor gets on TV, beats on their chest, talks about how proud they are that somebody's gone for 30 years, that's only the beginning of the story. Somebody's going to have to pay for that. Now, the way that works is, in the federal system, is the Bureau of Prisons is under the Department of Justice. So every dollar that gets spent to incarcerate somebody is a dollar that doesn't get spent so I can hire a lawyer. Is another dollar that doesn't get spent because the pie is only so big for the Department of Justice. And the Bureau of Prison budget is increasing every time somebody gets sent to prison. All right? That's less money for fighting terrorism. That's less money for fighting child pornography. That's less money for fighting white-collar fraud. Those dollars get taken out of that coffer to pay the obligation that is a sentence, right? So whichever train you get on, okay, whether you get on the moral train or whether you get on the fiscal train, it arrives at the same place. Now, perhaps that might be why this issue has been one of the few issues that has gotten bipartisan support in Washington. Is because there's two groups of people that have gotten there. People that just felt the moral issue, the economic issue, and they arrive at a common denominator, which is we need to start doing something about it. So, what have we done? Okay, one of the things that we've done that I'm extraordinarily proud of. There's two programs I want to talk to you about. We've done. I'm extraordinarily proud of. One of them is what we call Drug Market Initiative. And I tell you who tells this story even better than me is the people at Dateline. And so if you go home and you're looking for something to do, Dateline Intersection is it was the show Dateline. The episode was called Intersection. And they followed this program that we started in North Charleston. And you may want to know why I picked North Charleston. Well, the time I picked North Charleston, it was the 7th deadliest city in America. So when I came in with this new idea, I was kind of thinking, you know what? I'm not going to make it any worse, right? I mean, what am I going to do? Make it worse than it already is? And so, I mean, if anything gets better, I can take some of the credit for it, right? And it doesn't sound like it could possibly get worse. And so but that's what we did was we picked a defined area. I mean, in the past, what would happen? People would come in and say, we're going to clean up Charleston Farms, all right? What I did was we identified an area that had a couple of things. It had a high rate of property crimes, okay? And it had a lot of people standing on street corners selling drugs, open air drug dealing. Because I think, you know, I've been in more fights in my life than I should, and the ones that I liked were the ones I picked that I knew I was going to win, right? I mean, the fights you find yourself in that you're going to lose, that's called getting beat, okay? And that's not good. And so what we decided to do was pick a fight we could win. And so we went to the communities and we told them, I will never call this neighborhood a high crime area. I will never call it a high drug area. I will never call your neighborhood that. Because for me to do that shows you that I'm ignorant to the fact that most of y'all are playing by the rules and paying your taxes on time. And it's just a few that aren't. And so what I want to do is figure out who the few are, okay, and go in and identify them. And we did that over the course of about 8-9 months. It turned out to be about 30 people in a 6-block area. We picked a 6-block area. During that time, we knocked on every door in the 6-block area on Saturdays, every other Saturday. I go to door. I knocked on this one lady's door and I went in and I told her what I was doing. And she said, see, I'm the government and here's this program I want to do. And she goes, you're one of those Roosevelt Democrats, aren't you? And I said, yes, ma'am, I am. So what we wound up doing was we identified out of the 30 people, there were about 8. You know, typically in the past, what you'd have done is gone in and taken all 30 people and sent them to federal prison. I was telling Judge Norton one time, I said, for a bagazillion years. He goes, Bill, you keep saying bagazillion years. Exactly how long is a bagazillion? I go, it's too long. That's how long it is, okay? So that's what we were doing is we were locking people up for a bagazillion years and then calling and then moving on to the next neighborhood. I don't think that's the way to do it. What we did that's proving to have worked, and other people had done it, they'd done it at High Point before me, was you go in and you identify the people that are really selling drugs. And you take, like we took the top at the 8 and we made federal cases out of them. Now, what was interesting was one of them at the tippy top of it was whenever he found out that he was getting a warrant, he'd been arrested a bunch of times, they said, we've got a warrant for you, and it's a federal warrant. And he honestly fell out, okay? Tough guy, fell out. We took those 8 and we sentenced them in federal court. They got real federal time. We took the ones in the middle and we told them, here's your case, okay? You got one of two choices. You can have a trial and we'll give you that in federal court, or you can plead guilty and you can do that in state court. And they all pled guilty, all right? And then we took the 8 at the bottom and we did a call-in. And if you watch this, you'll see it's extraordinarily visual and it's very powerful. We brought those 8 in and we gave them a letter. And we said, here's your letter. You need to be at North Charleston City Hall at certain date at certain time. And when they came in, we had a chair for each one of them. And behind them, there was another chair. They could bring somebody they trusted. And in their chair was all of their discovery. And they sat there like you're sitting here, and we had the community come in. So all the people in the community were there. We brought these guys in, and we had the pictures of all the people we'd arrested, big blown up pictures. And we said, here's the deal. You are what we call a drug dealer. Okay? And you are what the people in your community call a drug dealer. Now, all of these people that the pictures are up here, they were drug dealers. The difference between them and you is they're in jail. All right? And this is the community. You recognize these people out here, okay? They're tired of you standing on the street corner selling drugs in their neighborhood. And if they see you on the corner looking like you're selling drugs, let me show you some video. And we showed videos of each one of them selling drugs. And we said, here's the deal. I can sign a warrant on any of y'all anytime I want to. And we're not going to do that. We brought in all law enforcement. Everybody knows who you are. If you sell drugs, we are going to arrest you. Period. All right? Now you get to walk out of here today. Or on your way out, I'd stop by that room over there where we've assembled a whole host of social services. And those eight, 6 of them wound up graduating from it. All right? It took them about a year. And they're like paying taxes. They got like health insurance. I'm not talking about, they got jobs. All right? And what's interesting is the first guy to fail out, and you'll see this on the Dateline if you watch it. The first guy to fail out, when they arrested him for selling drugs, you know what the first thing he wanted was? Not a lawyer. He didn't want bond. What he wanted was to go back to the weekly meeting and tell the other ones that were in the program, don't screw up like he did. To not screw up like he did. That this was an opportunity that they were getting and he needed to take advantage of it. That program in North Charleston has now, when I went down there, they kind of thought I was like, they called me a hippie, they called me a communist. And, but I don't know. But anyway, but it worked, okay? And so what then wound up happening was they took that program and they made it even bigger. What they do now in North Charleston is they don't even do the arrest part. They just say, if you're selling drugs and want to quit, you come into the North Charleston Police Department and we will put you in this program. And they are graduating every 4 or 5 months. They're graduating like 10 or 15 people at a time that had been previously selling drugs that were going to go to jail. You were going to have to pay for it. And instead now they're paying taxes. Okay? And that's the way things should work. In Conway, we've got a graduation on Thursday. That program has worked enormously well. One of the things, let me tell you about what we're doing. And so I would ask you, the reason I tell you about the program at Conway was, the reason the program at Conway got started was when they had the mayor's meeting here, or like city managers or whatever meeting in Greenville, Lance Crick and I went and talked about it. The mayor of Conway said, I want this in my community. All right? There are a number of ways that this sort of reform can take place. It can take place from law enforcement, it can take place from the prosecutors, or it can take place from y'all, because y'all are the people that put people in office. Y'all know that's how democracy works, right? So if you call on it, they will have to do it because it works. The data is there. One of the things we're doing in Charleston, in Greenville, that I'm extraordinarily proud of, but we've got an exceptional, I got a bunch of great United States attorneys here. One of them's here tonight, Jamie Shane. But Lance Crick would be here, except he's on vacation. He's come up with an idea, and Lance and I have been doing this sort of thing. We've been riding around the country around South Carolina doing these things. And here's what we're doing, just to let you know that it's not all about warm, squishy stuff. There are bad people out there, all right? Now, guns, my view of the federal government is this, that the federal government's job is to do what the states are either unwilling or unable to do. All right? Let's take for example, civil rights. Okay? I love the state. Remember the first families of South Carolina, all that. But, we don't have the best record on civil rights. The federal government has been who has stepped in and done civil rights. LGBT issues, there's environmental issues, there's a whole host of issues that the state government simply has not addressed. Federal has done a better job of. Drugs is an example of where the state does do it. Okay? The state has got drug laws, the state's got drug prosecutors, what the state can't do is really big drug cases. So we've taken this away from not doing small level drug cases so they get state time, if we get federal time instead of getting state time. Now, one thing that South Carolina does not have is gun laws. We basically don't have gun laws, okay? You take Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, the U.S. Attorney's Office does very few gun cases because Pennsylvania, they have state laws. A lot of districts are like that. We've got a program in place here where we are identifying people coming out of jail that have shown, out of prison, that have shown they've got a violent history, as evidenced by what they've done in the past. We have done a really good job. Lance has done a really good, we being Lance, when I say we, insert Lance, has done a really good job of training law enforcement about people who have violent past and convictions or felons should not have guns. The way it would work in the past would be somebody pick up a state charge, they'd have a gun, it'd percolate along in a state case. Sometimes they'd make state bond, go back out on the street, they get their gun back. Not anymore. What we're doing is streamlining that process. If you get picked up and you're violent and you've got felonies, you're not going to state court. You're coming straight to federal court. Okay? That is the type of thing that we should be doing. That, in my opinion, it positively affects the lives of the people who live in this district. I think I'm almost done. And one of the good things about talking fast is you get finished quick. Again, I do want to say I really do appreciate y'all having me. Furman is a great school, and I just love Secretary Riley. And I love being here, and I really appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.